And we are back on the Zero Hour. I am Richard RJ Eskow, and when something horrific happens like the attack in Belgium, it's important to try to bring out the best of us as a people, as a national community. I would argue that in the aftermath to 9/11, that's precisely what happened in New York City and in the United States and in the world's reaction to the United States. If you will remember, hundreds of thousands of people marched on the street of Tehran in Iran in support of the United States and the suffering it had undergone. We were coming together at that point in history. Our initial reaction was the right one. Our initial reaction was a good one. But to the extent that the mass media still constitutes the kind of fireside, the place where the community gathers to process new experiences, I have to say my impression is that once again we were very much let down politically, ethically, culturally, and morally by the mass media. Now, Jack Merkinson, who writes for Salon, did the world the service of documenting, for example, the response of NBC to the attack in Brussels. And I think it's instructive, I think it's informative to go over what they did, because I think it's important for us in the alternative media to try to counteract the influence of what happens in situations like this. Now, I'll leave out the editorial comments that Jack Merkinson makes, although I tend to basically to agree with them. But basically, as is the case usually when a terrorist attack occurs, our mass media does not talk about some of the things we were talking about in the last segment. We don't hear much about diplomacy. We don't hear much about economic justice. We don't hear much about building up the institutions of democracy. Now, NBC had, and that's Matt Lauer and Savannah Guthrie, had both Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton on their program. After the attack, Trump was horrifying, as you might expect. He did not offer any condolences to the victims. We don't expect much from Donald Trump. But, for example, Matt Lauer asked Donald Trump, quote, "What would you say would be appropriate in terms of what they can do to him," meaning the already captured ISIS guy, Salah Abdeslam. What would you say would be appropriate in terms of what they can do to him at this moment to get any information that they can about possible further attacks? In other words, let's unpack that question a little bit. Matt Lauer was encouraging Trump, who has spoken on behalf of torture, to advocate for torture. That was a leading question designed to encourage a presidential candidate to advocate a policy that is against both international law and moral law. They asked Hillary Clinton, could something like this happen here? That was Savannah Guthrie's question. Is this something that people should fear? So NBC, at a moment of crisis for the world, chose to do two things in the process of questioning presidential candidates. It's chose to encourage the advocacy of illegal and immoral behavior, and it chose to encourage the spreading of fear. If the media is, as I said at the beginning, our fireside, our conversation is on fire.